Alright everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about shear over comb. This has been a heavily requested video, and I hope that I can clear up some of the mystery behind this technique and help you guys to improve your scissor over comb or your shear over comb. And I also want you guys to understand its place in the midst of everything, because clipper over comb is going to do what?
Remove bulk.
That's right. It's going to remove a lot of bulk, and it's going to do it quickly. Someone pass me that mannequin head real quick. Go. Alright, I'll tell you guys something right now. Once you understand scissor over comb and you practice it enough to where you really get it, you will never hold a section out with your fingers like this again. This will be something of the past. This is something that basically you'll see a lot of cosmetologists doing it, and I'm not really knocking anybody for doing this. This is a technique that you can use. Of course, these are all just means to an end, but if I see you holding your fingers out here like this before you go ahead and come in and cut it, alright, that tells me that you're using a different technique. On hair that is this length, there would never be a reason for me to do anything other than shear over comb. Some guys hear, oh, there's a scissor cut coming in. Oh, I don't want to do a scissor cut because it's going to take me forever because I got to do all these sections and subsections and go through this whole... No, you don't. And the truth is, the scissor cut is going to take you less time than doing a fade. So in the end, you're going to profit more from learning how to do this technique properly, and you're going to be able to take your game to the next level because you're going to be able to do it consistent, accurate, and fast, much faster than holding it out with your fingers. The other thing, that when you're holding out with your fingers, you're limited to the thickness of your fingers, right? So finger length is essentially the shortest you can go when cutting finger and shear method. But obviously we can go as low as a skin fade with shear over comb, which I'm not recommending you to do, because that's fancy stuff that you see people doing on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. You see people showing you how to do a skin fade with shears. It is possible to do a skin fade with shears, but unless you're getting a ridiculous amount of money for that haircut, why would you put your hand through that much? You're going to wind up with carpal tunnel if you continue to do that, okay? So obviously we want to use the right tools at the right time to maximize our accuracy, our speed, and our profit. So one of the first things we need to understand, and I just needed to say this because I'm sure there's some people out there who may not know how to hold the shears properly, okay? So the way to properly hold the shears is to take your ring finger on your dominant hand and put it in the top hole, pinky's on the finger brace, and your two fingers are resting on the shank. Why do we do this? Because my fingers are free and I'm able to hold a comb. And if I had to, I could even hold a spray bottle too. So some people say, oh, I can't hold the spray bottle, the comb, and the shears. I don't understand why, because I don't have any problem doing this. When you first start, you're going to find this really difficult, this palming the shears technique. And if you're new, you can try this. Pretend you're combing, you're holding your section, you're cutting, and then you're going back. I know that this looks super easy, but it's not. This takes practice to be able to palm this, and you'll get to an extent where this does not even exist and you don't even realize that it's in your hand. Okay? You'll notice that I'm holding two pairs of shears. One of these shears is my 9-inch shears. These are going to be the ones that we're going to be using for shear over comb. If you are attempting to use something smaller, like this 3-inch shear, you're going to find it's going to be very difficult to use this technique. Not only is it going to be difficult, it's going to be next to impossible, and it's not going to be efficient. Because if you're trying to use a shear that is not properly made for this job, you're wasting time. You're better off doing the subsection method that we talked about if this is all you have. But if you actually have a barber shear and you want to use this barber technique, then this is what we're going to start talking about here today. You're going to find that this is going to be much more accurate than using the clipper over comb. And every single haircut I do, especially every single fade, I always go through with some scissor over comb to refine it, to smooth it out, and we can engage in several different techniques. So the first one, very similar to how we were doing when we were rolling the comb when we did the clipper over comb. We're going to put the hair in there, we're going to roll it out towards us. Now there's something also I want to talk about. You're going to see a lot of barbers who do this technique very fast. You'll see them, you know, they're moving their thumb. They're really fast, right? There's no need to do this really fast business, okay? Moving really fast is not going to get this haircut any faster. It's not going to do you any better. It's just going to probably cause you to make mistakes. You don't need to speed through this technique. What you need to be doing is just moving up Whether it's slowly or fast, you're moving up while you're cutting, and it's all just one smooth motion. Doesn't matter how fast you do it, just it matters that as long as you're doing it all in one smooth motion, that's gonna help. So again, we're holding our comb on the end here. We don't want to be holding our comb like this because this reduces our range of motion. Of course, this is something you could do if you felt comfortable for it, but I'm just telling you right now that if all I got is this range of motions compared to this range of motion, I'd rather be able to put my comb right in there, lift up that hair, flip it out towards me, and then begin with my scissor-over-comb technique. Now, as long as you have your longer shears, you'll also find that it's going to be very easy to start tapering your haircuts. So what that's going to mean is even though this might be a scissor trim or a long haircut of some kind, it's still becoming shorter at the bottom and gradually getting longer into the top. All men's haircuts should do this to some extent. I see like Justin Bieber or something and you want to wear your hair all surfer-like or whatever like that. That's one thing, but I'm saying like generally the 90% of these people who wear these kind of haircuts, the businessman, the person who combs it back behind the ears, combs all their hair straight back, these kind of people are going to have their hair tapered, usually in the nape and definitely around the sideburn area. Maybe not down to a blowout or down to a skin fade or anything like that, but we're just talking about the business casual person is going to find that this haircut works for him. So let's get into this. Let's get into this technique. And you know, I just also want to preface this by saying, like, a lot of people think that somehow we don't need to talk like this about it. Like, this is called theory. This is going to help you build a more firm understanding of it. It's important that we talk about this before we actually go into this, because how many tutorials have you watched where you thought, oh, I could do that, that looks easy, and you sat back down and you tried to do it and you found how difficult it actually was? Because anybody can come on this YouTube channel and say, oh, hey, you could do it, man. Let me just show you how I do it. Just do what I do. But that ain't how it works. That really ain't how it works. The way it works is through hard work and dedication. And if anybody out there is wondering how to do the clipper over comb, I did a video just recently. You can look back, check out that clipper over comb video, because a lot of this information has been covered in the clipper over comb video as well. But this one is going to be dedicated to shear over comb and how to get better at shear over comb. So probably the first thing you're going to need, especially if you're working on a real client, is it's going to be helpful for you to have a pair of shears, texturizing shears, okay? My texturizing shears are a little bit longer, they're a little bit bigger, but in this case, you're going to find this is going to be a lot easier for you to practice on real clients. I wouldn't instruct you to do this on a mannequin, because make the mistakes on the mannequins. That's what they're here for. But on a real client, if you're trying to bridge into this scissor over comb and you don't feel comfortable, pick up your shears, pick up your texturizing shears, and let's get down to business, because you're going to find this technique is going to be a whole lot easier if you make a mistake with these rather than making a mistake with the actual shears and cutting a giant notch into somebody's hair, and that's going to be hard to come back from. So one of the first things that I'll tell you to do when you're going to begin this shear over comb is you need to get all this hair going nice and straight and down. So I'm going to begin by thoroughly saturating this hair, because what happens to hair when it begins to dry? What happens with hair that dries?
It gets frizzy.
Well, it gets frizzy too, but it shrinks, right? As soon as it starts to dry, it starts to shrink. And once it starts to shrink, let's say half of it dries and half of it's wet. What do we have? We have a bunch of different lengths in there, and it'd be impossible to get that all straightened out. And now, a word from our sponsors. We don't have any sponsors, okay? This is just me trying to make a difference. I make all the videos, I edit them, I shoot them, I film them, I got all the cameras, the equipment, computers, and it's all very expensive to make these YouTube videos. Okay, anybody who's interested in checking out some of the tools that I use, like this is my total favorite setup. It's battle tested. I've used it for many years. Most of the stuff here has been here for a long time, and it works excellent. Go ahead and click that link in the drop down below and you can check those out. And I finally got some merch up on the channel, and if you decide to scoop one, it really helps the channel out. If this channel helps you out and you want to support it and you want to see more of it, anything you do like that will really help me out. And also, I want to do more product giveaways and stuff like that, but it's expensive, and I left a link to my PayPal down below. If you guys kick in a little donation, we're gonna start getting in some of this. I can start giving away more clippers, and I can start doing some more things. You find it in your heart to throw even just as little as $1 or $2, it could go a long way to getting some of these clippers in some of these people's hands that might need them, and I can continue to do this for more people. Okay, so I've taken my time, I've thoroughly saturated it, I got it all combed down, and now we're gonna begin. Now, what we're gonna do here in most of these cases, and on a mannequin it's going to be hard, but we're going to establish where we want the length to be. That can be done by simply performing your normal blunt cut where you're positioning the head down, and you might even have to put your fingers down here so that you can actually push the hair down onto the nape of the neck and you can trim off the length, okay? This can also be done with trimmers. It can also be done towards the end of the haircut, but it's a good idea to establish a baseline in this haircut. And then further, this client says that they want it off of their ears so that their ears are showing, and we want like a business casual look, okay? Now on an actual mannequin, it's gonna be a little bit difficult for you to do this, and it's gonna stick out like crazy because of the way these hairs are attached, but generally speaking, what I'll do is I'll pull the ear down and I'll begin this technique around the ear. What's it called, everybody? What's this called?
Point cutting.
No, it's not.
Framing. Hang on, I can't see. No.
I'm going around the ear. Arching.
That's what I said.
Oh, I never would have got that.
You guys never would have got that?
What was it?
Arching.
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 It's called arching. When you go around the arch with trimmers or a clipper or with scissors, it's called arching. So this is just the same simple technique. We're just going around the ears and we're cutting around. And what I like to do when you can actually move the ears, these ears are affixed to the head, so there's nothing I could do. But generally I pull these ears back and then I comb the hair into the direction so that they can stay there, and I just begin cutting it. Now it's okay because you're gonna wind up going back through and you're gonna clean this up anyways. We just roughly want to get rid of some of this hair because you have those clients out there, and the reason why I'm doing it like this is you have those clients out there who've requested that they don't want any clippers on their head at all. That's what this is for. Otherwise, it makes more sense for me to almost always grab my Slimline Pros and just clean up around the ears. I could easily do that. There's less that can go wrong. There's less chance that I'm going to cut somebody. But in the event that somebody does say, I don't want any machine on my head. I actually got a guy with a pacemaker one time who thought that he would have a heart attack if I used the machine. And I couldn't use the blow dryer near him either.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know how true that is.
Wow.
If anybody else can attest to the validity of that, I would like to hear in the comments.
That one.
So, anyways, I got my outline roughly trimmed off. So I'm basically ready to start, and I guess it would make more sense for me to show it to you on this side here with the white background. Now, just like clipper-over-comb, scissor-over-comb is not a one-cut-fits-all. You're going to have to go back through there a few times, and you're going to have to clean this up. But what I'd like to do first is I want to basically begin with my comb where I actually want the hair to begin. So like out here, I'm just holding my comb out here because this is basically where I want the hair to start tapering. So I'm just going to decide how much I want to take off, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is rolling the comb out towards me. I'll position the head down so it's nice and easy to get to. Now I can roll that comb out towards me, and I can begin cutting and lifting. Cutting and lifting at the same time, and then I can hold my guide with the back of the shears, hold my guide with the back of the shears, and work my way up. You see me travel up that section pretty fast. It was pretty easy, okay, and you're going to find that it's going to be fairly accurate too. And even though I've only done one pass, I'm going to go back through, I'm going to do another pass, and I'm just going to even that all up and make sure that I didn't miss anything. You will be surprised how accurate you are, and if you want to know how accurate you are, you're just going to have to take a section out here and hold it out with your fingers. And if you could see that there isn't giant long hairs here or anything like that, you're going to see that it's perfectly fine. So you're going to see it's nice and straight, it's nice and clean. Okay? And I can transition this length all the way up into the top, and if I look closely at the camera, you can pretty much see where I left off. Okay, you can see where the hair is short and nice all the way up until I get to about right here, which is where I started leaving off. And this mannequin's had like a perm or something like that, so it's not as easy to see, but you can pretty much see where some of that long hair is starting. If I show you on the side here, you can see where some of that long hair is starting. So right where I left off. Okay. So what we're gonna do is I'm actually not gonna go up super high on the head. I can continue moving up. And like I said, you see me moving fast, but there's actually nothing fast about how I'm moving because it doesn't really matter. Now you'll see me tipping the comb on the side. I have a guide right here where I just began, and I'm shaping it to the head. So it's fine. Down here, it's especially safe to cut And I'm using my pinky, again, if you could see, I'm using my pinky again for myself to go ahead and set that length. And I can hold it right on where that guide is. I don't even have to move this comb right now. I can just cut what sticks out. I can cut what sticks out. I'm not even moving the comb. That's it. I mean, there's nothing to it. Once I slide it in and I position it properly, notice I just keep lifting. Just keep lifting. Nothing needs to be fast about this. You'll see people moving fast because they've practiced a lot. But until you practice a lot, don't move fast. There's no need for it. Look how slow you can move. You can move as slow as you want. All that really matters is that when you begin cutting, you begin lifting. Now I can comb all this hair out, right? And if I just get out of the way, I can comb all this hair out. And look at how nice and straight this is on this side profile. You can see that all this hair is being cut accurately. Now, another way that I could have done it, I could have went through and held all these subsections and subsections and subsections and drove myself crazy, and also put extra strain on this hand and in this hand, because now I'm squeezing the scissor, causing carpal tunnel over the years, and I'm holding the hair, which is also causing me issues over the years in my wrist and in my tendons. So I can reduce all that, and I'm also reducing the potential of me cutting my finger, because if I'm holding my section like this, I'm moving quick, and we all know, we've all done it, we've all cut our fingers.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Whenever you guys are doing your 90-degree section, you can see, I got my guide right here, and you can see how much needs to be cut right there. It's very easy to see this. I'm just trying to find the right view. I see my guide. It's falling out of my comb, which I'm going to let my guide fall out, and if you wanted to, you could simply just hold it right here and you could cut it. This is not going to hurt you anything. Look at how slow, lifting it little by little, coming up and cutting it. That's not going to hurt you at all. If you don't have it accurate the first time, it's okay, because all that hair that's around that area you initially worked in is becoming a guide as we move. So as I go around this section, I'm shaping it to the side of the head, I'm following the head, and in a 90-degree haircut, no matter where I pull this hair out, the hair needs to be held straight out for it to be 90 degrees, right? So no matter where I pull this hair out, it all is the same length. And I want you guys to watch out on the state board for that question that they say, what haircut is all hair cut the same length? And a lot of people will say blunt cut, but there's nothing the same about every hair in a blunt cut. Not sure how well you can see this, but this is a blunt cut example. We have the blunt cut, and as you look at the hair in the nape, it's only an inch long. You have hair that's connected to the apex, which is the highest point on the head, again found by balancing a comb, tipping it back and forth on the top of the head to find the apex of the head, the highest point on the head. That hair that's attached to the apex is something like 8 inches long versus the hair that's attached to the nape, which is only about 1 inch long. Vastly superior technique, much faster, much more accurate, and had I not been sitting here jabbering on, I could have been done with this in 5 minutes, which is great because it will maximize your profit. So anyways, I'm not even moving the comb much, just moving it up a little bit and making sure that all that hair is held out straight. The other great part about this is the hair is being held with no tension by using the comb versus using the finger and shear method. I might be adding a lot of tension here and pulling the hair and stretching it, and hair with good elasticity can stretch and return how much of its original length?
Half.
Wow, crickets. Crickets. So anyways,
What's the answer?
I could be putting more tension on this, and hair that is wet with good elasticity can stretch and return more than half of its original length. Like, you don't see me cutting with my hair way up high on the comb, right? Just like in clipper over comb cutting, we don't cut until it hits to the bottom of this comb. That's a really key point, and I probably should have said it sooner, but once I start lifting, the hair is not really being directed out to 90 degrees. It could be in here, but it's not being directed out to 90 degrees yet. And it's okay if you cut it. It doesn't really matter. I just want to go over to the board for 1 second. Okay? If all the hair is being directed out to 90 degrees, that means if I hold this hair straight out, wherever I am, as long as I'm directing it straight out, that's 90 degrees, that's 90 degrees, that's 90 degrees, that's 90 degrees. The whole point is to get that uniform layer cut, right, in an easier way. Now, what if you were directing the hair straight out at 90 degrees here, but you had also included some of the hair from here and some of the hair from here? So in other words, you had a very wide section. right? Everybody following me so far? I want you to understand that the only hair being directed to 90 degrees is right here and right here. About the width of whatever comb you're using, assuming you're not using a wide tooth comb. In this case, I'm talking about finger and shear cutting, and when finger and shear cutting, I'm talking about using your normal hair cutting comb, which is only a 1/2 inch wide. So a 1/2 inch wide of this section is the only area that's being cut to 90 degrees. Now this hair that's coming all the way from here, what's it going to be when it comes back? It's being over-directed all the way to here.
It's going to be longer.
It's going to be longer, which is why it doesn't matter that it's being cut, because you're not cutting it too short. But if that's all you did and you thought that this section was going to be all good, it's not going to be all good. It's actually going to look something like this when you comb it all out. Right? It's going to look where the hair was actually cut to 90, and then the two areas that were just directed over are going to show you that V right there. I hope you guys are following me here. So in order to actually cut the section beside this section at 90 degree, this section, it's okay if you hold a lot of hair, but you have to realize that that is the only hair that's being cut to 90 degrees. So when you're doing your finger and shear sectioning, you're keeping that 90 degrees. You can hold as much hair as you want, but that's why we start off with sectioning and subsectioning, you guys, so that you understand that that hair is coming from this part of the head, this part of the head, this part of the head. And then as you go on and we get more knowledgeable about the techniques and stuff, you understand this stuff and you're able to hold bigger sections, do things faster, and do less subsectioning as well. Before I go any further into this part, I want you guys to be cautioned now, because we have the bangs to consider now, okay? So if I just lift up and start hacking these, if I just lift up and start hacking this away because I'm doing shear over comb, I'll show you the mistake that you could easily make right now. So I lift up, I'm doing shear over comb, everything's cool, whoop, oh. All of a sudden, I just cut right into the bangs, right? I just cut right into the bangs. So now I've left myself with a mess, which means that when I come into this section, before you're gonna do this area, it would make a lot more sense for you to just section off this bang section and cut the bangs on the top using your finger and shear method, the way you should. So, if you got just a second here, take a clip of some kind, it really doesn't matter what, and now you're free to just go and cut the way you want to cut. Essentially, what you're seeing is all the hair that's being cut is at the bottom of the comb, okay? My shear, when it moves, notice the bottom doesn't move. Okay, that's because this part of my hand is held really still, and this part is the area that's moving. So that essentially, these two can be parallel with each other, and the back of this shear and the bottom of that comb are basically going to stay right next to each other. So as I move up, I can begin rolling out, okay? Good question. Okay, he just asked if I could use a styling comb to do the same thing. I absolutely could, but I would caution you this. When I'm moving up with scissor over comb, as long as I'm being careful, using any comb is not going to hurt. But if I have a wider comb, I have a less chance of making this mistake where I fall, where I'm going quick, and I'm trying to balance it. I'm trying to balance the shear and the comb together, right? And I don't have that width that I need. So I do prefer, when the situation calls for it, to use a wider comb, because it stops me from going up to put my shear. I'm going up to balance my shear on that comb, and I wind up behind it and you make a cut. Now, if we wound up behind it when we were making a cut, I would just be cutting, oh, everything's good, and boom, I wind up behind it and I make a cut. It's a lot easier to reduce your mistakes. I don't want a really wide comb, but it's a lot easier to reduce your mistakes when you're using a wider comb, and that's going to help you. But at the same time, doesn't matter what comb you're using, because you're not cutting anything till it falls to the bottom of this comb, and you're not cutting anything till it falls to the bottom of this comb. Otherwise, you're cutting hair that is not at 90 degrees, like we talked about in that section. So, the other way that you'll see a lot of useful shear over comb is with a taper comb. Does somebody have a taper comb, please? Okay, now this is really going to help you when you're, this is a weird looking tapering comb. It doesn't taper all that much, but there's a slight taper in this comb. I don't have any of my other combs, they're at the shop. But when you're trying to do those really fine details, that really low fade stuff, and I'm talking about when that hair is very, very short, so I'll just go ahead and I'll cut some of that really short just so that I can show you the technique. Now, once I get that comb all the way in there, this is going to allow you to cut the width of what this comb is. So I could go down to about as low as a number 1 in some cases with some hair if I comb it out to 90 degrees with that taper comb. Clipper over comb with this technique, or you could be using even trimmer over comb with this technique, which would be more likely because the trimmer will be easier to keep on the edge of these teeth without falling into the back. The clipper might be a little bit big for the size of this comb, and you might find it a little more difficult to keep accuracy, especially when you're just starting out. The first thing that I go to whenever I'm holding a comb and I plan to do shear and comb cutting, like I do on top, always. I'm not saying that you should use scissor over comb for the top. Of course you can if you want, but it's not gonna make any sense. It's gonna make it less accurate. On the top, it's best to do shear and comb, and if you guys are curious about how I do the top and you wanna learn more about scissors, I have a good video on it, and it's called How to Barber with Scissors. It's on my channel, and you guys can go ahead and check that out. I was really careful, and I showed you how to do an entire haircut, shear and comb, using my ABC method. The fine details, we're definitely going to use a finer comb. For the larger amounts of hair that we want to reduce bulk, we're going to use a wider comb. And for all-around accuracy, this wider comb is going to be easier because you're going to be more accurate when you come in to rest your shears on your comb. You're going to have a bigger surface and less chance for you to make a mistake and wind up behind the comb and wind up cutting that hair. All right, so if I got no questions, I must have did a damn good job of explaining this. Is that what you're trying to say? Is that what you're trying to say? You trying to say I did a good job? Nice. All right, cool. So for those of you at home.
Oh, I have a question.
What's up?
Where do you get this?
Oh, right there. You guys like my scissor block? I just put the shears in here. It's got these little bristles. It holds them straight up and down. It stops it from being knocked around. And I really like using this thing. And it's only like 10 bucks, and it's on the link down below. You can check that out. All right, you guys, the majority of this video is done, and you guys are free to go and go your own separate way, but what follows here is just a little clip of me working with one of my students, and he might be going through some of the issues that some of you guys are. So if you want to just check out the little exchange, how I correct him, what I do, go ahead and feel free to check that out. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, you guys, I thought maybe some people could benefit from this, and my friend Matt here has been gracious enough as he learns this. He's a student in the school I work at, and I'm going to help him to try to learn how to do this scissor over comb thing. I asked him if he wanted me to shout him out on Instagram, and he told me he don't have Instagram, and he just got a Facebook. So you guys be kind to him in the comments, but let him know he needs to get with the program. First, I want to prove the point that it's going to be difficult to do the shear over comb with the scissors that he has. Show him your shears. Alright, so his shears are probably around the 3-inch blade range, maybe 4.5, 5-inch total. Okay, so those blades are going to be extremely difficult to do that technique with, because you're going to be able to take care of barely any hair at all. So we need to go ahead and give him mine. Don't drop them. Alright, and we're going to make this a little easier on him. So let's start by practicing rolling your comb. So roll your comb so that you're basically able to pull some of this hair out. Now this hair is a little long, but it's okay. We're going to get the purpose out of this. Okay, now that you got your comb in there, cut it off, however much you want to begin with. So that's fine. Now see how you got your comb facing this way? We want to try to have it facing this way a little bit more. We just don't want it pointed in towards the head. Okay, that's good. Now you can pretty much see your guideline there that you just created. Okay, now comb it all down again. Okay, notice that you're going to see a big weight section here, right? And all this hair here is still very long. So why don't you start out by trimming the neckline now?
To that?
Yeah, let's bring this neckline up to whatever you want it to be. Now roll the comb out towards you. Don't cut all that off. You only want to cut a little bit. Remember, this is not the. Yeah, that's better. Now lift the comb when you begin to cut. Good. Let's keep moving up. Now begin cutting and begin lifting. Watch your thumb on that other side. Very easy to cut your thumb on that other side, so that's good, that's good. Now, when you're cutting with this, you want to keep this up against the comb. In that last cut, you were all the way out here cutting, right? But this cutting needs to take place on the comb. Your scissors and your comb are together as one. See what I mean? And you want to keep that cutting to the bottom, relegate that cutting to the, yeah, right there. When you see it being held out properly at 90 degrees, then you know it's safe to begin lifting and rolling the comb towards you. As soon as you begin squeezing the scissor, begin lifting the comb at the same time. That was too much. All right, but we don't want to be taking too much hair off at one time, right? So unless you got a guideline in there, like in this case, you would be able to see you got a little guide right here, right? And right here, you basically know it's safe to cut this off. But as a general rule of thumb, you don't want to be taking a giant amount of hair off right away if you're not 100% sure what you're doing. See, there you go. That's good. It came out to your guide. You can see it. Don't be moving that. Don't be moving this hand towards this hand.
Okay, so
This
just keep
hand
it
stays
straight
still
up.
the whole time. Yeah, you don't ever cut across your comb like that. You keep this hand here, but
Oh, okay.
it stays here, right? If you bring that hand towards your other hand, you're gonna cut you already cut your hand. That's all right. Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.